It started as just a fleeting moment, something so innocent that I didn't even think twice about it. But now, looking back, I realized how close I came to crossing a line I never thought I'd even approach. And the craziest part. My husband, he noticed. He didn't just notice, he encouraged it. At first I thought it was some sort of test or joke, but as things unfolded, I realized there was something much deeper going on. There's this man, let's call him Ethan. He's been around for years, an old friend of the family. Charming, easygoing, the kind of person who lights up a room without even trying. I'll admit there's always been this energy between us, but I've always brushed it off as harmless chemistry. After all, I'm married, happily married. But then Ethan started dropping these little comments, things that were just a tad too personal, a touch too familiar. "You're glowing today," he'd say. His eyes lingering just a moment too long. Or, "I wish my girlfriend laughed at my jokes the way you do." I laughed it off at first, chalking it up to his playful personality. But then my husband, Mark, noticed. And his reaction, not what you'd expect. Instead of being jealous or annoyed, Mark seemed intrigued. "Ethan's got good taste," he joked one night as we were cleaning up after a dinner party. I laughed, but there was something in his tone, a curiosity, maybe even a bit of excitement, that stuck with me. And that's where it all began. What started as harmless teasing turned into something much more complicated. Mark started encouraging me to dress up more when Ethan was around, to laugh a little louder at his jokes, to sit just a little closer during those late-night conversations. At first it felt like a game, a harmless, silly game. But then the rules started to blur. One night, Mark suggested I go out with Ethan, just the two of us, to pick up some supplies for a barbecue we were hosting. "It'll be faster without me," he said casually. But his eyes told a different story. That's when I started questioning everything. Was this really just Mark being confident in our marriage? Or was there something else at play? And then, during that car ride with Ethan, something happened. A small, almost insignificant moment that changed everything. Ethan and I got into the car. The evening air cool but tense in a way I couldn't quite explain. I tried to shake off the weird feeling. After all, this was Ethan. We'd shared countless laughs and memories, always in the company of Mark or other friends. This was no different, right? The drive was uneventful at first, filled with small talk about the barbecue and what snacks we should grab. But then, as we pulled into the parking lot of the store, Ethan turned to me with that trademark grin of his. "You know," he said, his voice soft but confident, "you've been different lately. In a good way." I froze for a moment, unsure how to respond. "Different? How so?" He shrugged, his eyes locking onto mine for a beat too long. "I don't know. Happier. Lighter. Whatever it is, it suits you." I laughed nervously and quickly got out of the car, brushing off his comment as harmless. But inside something stirred, a mixture of flattery and unease. Was it wrong that his words made me feel noticed? Inside the store, Ethan stayed close. Too close. At one point, our hands brushed as we both reached for a bag of chips, and he didn't pull away right away. It was such a small thing, but it lingered in my mind as we checked out and headed back to the car. On the drive home, Ethan turned the conversation to Mark. "He's a lucky guy," he said, glancing at me with a smile. "Not every husband would be so chill about, well, us hanging out like this." I felt a knot in my stomach. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. He hesitated, as if weighing his words. "I just mean some guys might get a little jealous, but not Mark. He's cool with it. It's kind of refreshing." Refreshing. The word hung in the air, its implications twisting in my mind. Was Mark really as cool with this as Ethan thought, or was there something else going on that I wasn't seeing? When we got back to the house, Mark was waiting on the porch, a beer in hand and that same curious look in his eyes. "How was the trip?" he asked casually, but his gaze flicked between me and Ethan like he was trying to read a book written in invisible ink. "It was fine," I said quickly, rushing past him and heading inside. But I could feel their eyes on me, the unspoken tension crackling in the air. That night, as we lay in bed, I couldn't hold back any longer. "Mark," I said hesitantly, "can I ask you something?" He turned to me, his expression calm but attentive. Of course. I took a deep breath. Why did you want me to go with Ethan today, alone? Mark smiled, a slow, deliberate smile that sent shivers down my spine. I trust you, he said simply. And I trust him. But then, just as I was starting to feel relieved, he added something that left me reeling. And honestly, I think it's good for you. His words echoed in my mind long after. He said them, good for me. What did that even mean? I couldn't shake the feeling that Mark wasn't telling me the whole truth, but I couldn't bring myself to press him. Not yet. The next few days were oddly normal, or at least they seemed to be. Mark went about his routine as if nothing had changed, while I found myself hyper-aware of every little thing Ethan said or did when he was around. It was like I was seeing him through a different lens, and that lens made everything feel charged. One evening we had another group gathering at our house, a casual dinner with some mutual friends. Ethan showed up late as usual, and when he walked in, his eyes went straight to me. I felt it immediately, that same electricity I'd been trying to ignore. Mark noticed too. Ethan, he called out, waving him over. You've got to try the ribs. They're her best yet. His emphasis on her made my cheeks flush. As the night wore on, I caught Ethan stealing glances at me more than once. At one point, when I went to grab a bottle of wine from the kitchen, he followed me. You're avoiding me, he said, leaning casually against the counter. I laughed nervously, keeping my eyes on the bottle as I uncorked it. I'm not avoiding you. Don't be ridiculous. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. You know you can talk to me about anything, right? I mean, if something's bothering you. I finally looked up at him, and for a split second I forgot how to breathe. The way he was looking at me, intense, searching, made it impossible to pretend anymore. Nothing's bothering me, I said quickly, turning away, but my heart was pounding, and I knew he could tell. Before he could say anything else, Mark walked in. His timing almost too perfect. There you are, he said, his tone light but his eyes sharp. Everything okay in here? Of course, I said, forcing a smile. But the tension was palpable, and I could tell Mark felt it too. That night, after everyone left, Mark and I sat on the couch in silence. I could feel him watching me, waiting for me to say something. Finally he spoke. You and Ethan, he began, his voice calm but deliberate. You're close, aren't you? I hesitated, unsure how to respond. We're friends, I said carefully. Why? He shrugged, his eyes never leaving mine. I just think it's interesting, the way he looks at you, the way you look at him. My stomach flipped. What's that supposed to mean? Mark smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Means maybe you should explore it. See what happens. I stared at him, stunned. Are you serious? His expression didn't waver. All I'm saying is, life's too short to ignore the things that make you feel alive. I didn't know what to say. Was he testing me, giving me permission, or was this some kind of trap? Either way, I had a feeling that nothing would be the same after this. The next few days felt like walking on a tightrope. Every glance between Ethan and me felt charged, loaded with an unspoken understanding, and yet I didn't know how far either of us was willing to go. Mark's words kept echoing in my mind. Life's too short to ignore the things that make you feel alive. It wasn't just a passing remark. It felt like an invitation. But for what? I tried to ignore it, tried to focus on the mundane, work, chores, making sure the barbecue was ready for our next get-together. But no matter how hard I tried, my mind kept wandering back to that night. To Ethan. To the way he looked at me, the way his presence seemed to draw something out of me I couldn't quite define. The following weekend, Mark and I had a friend's wedding to attend. It was the kind of event where you'd expect everyone to be on their best behavior. But something about it made me feel even more on edge. Ethan was there, of course, and as always he was charming, joking around, making people laugh. But there was a tension in the air whenever our eyes met. I couldn't ignore it. I found myself watching him more than I should have, caught up in the way he moved, the way his voice changed when he spoke to me. At one point, I excused myself to grab a drink from the bar, and before I knew it, Ethan was beside me. You okay? He asked, his voice a little too soft, a little too close. I nodded, though I wasn't sure why I felt so nervous. Yeah, just tired. It's been a long day. He smiled, that familiar mischievous smile that always made my heart race. Well, we should change that, shouldn't we? He motioned to the empty balcony outside. Come take a breath with me. I think you need a break from all these people. For a moment I hesitated. Was this a subtle invitation? Was I reading into it, or was something happening that I couldn't stop? I glanced back at Mark, who was talking to some friends across the room, laughing like he always did. He didn't notice me slip away with Ethan. We stepped out onto the balcony, the cool night air calming the butterflies in my stomach. Ethan leaned against the railing, and I joined him, standing close enough to feel the warmth of his body beside me. You look stunning tonight, he said, his voice low, almost intimate. I forced a smile, not trusting my voice. Thanks. The silence that followed was heavy. I felt like I was standing on the edge of something I couldn't undo, and yet I couldn't turn back. Ethan's gaze locked with mine, and for a moment I thought he might kiss me. The way he looked at me, no words, just this intense connection. It felt like the world had stopped spinning around us. Before I could react, he spoke again, his voice barely a whisper. You know, I think Mark knows. Froze. He knows what? He's not blind. He sees the way we're drawn to each other, Ethan continued, his eyes never leaving mine. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Felt my pulse quicken. This was it, the moment when everything changed. Was this a test, a temptation, or was I actually willing to cross the line? Just as I was about to speak, I heard Mark's voice from inside calling out for me. Hey babe, you coming back in? I snapped back to reality, my heart pounding in my chest. Ethan stepped away from the railing, his smile fading into something unreadable. Go ahead, he said softly. I'll see you inside. I walked back inside, my mind a whirlwind of confusion. What had just happened, and why did it feel like the ground had shifted beneath me? But the real question was, did Mark know exactly what was going on, or had he been playing his own game this whole time? The following week felt like a whirlwind. The wedding night replayed in my mind over and over. Ethan's words, his touch, the look in his eyes when I walked away. I tried to act normal, but there was this heavy, almost suffocating tension hanging between me and Mark. Every time I caught his gaze, I felt like he could see right through me, like he knew I was teetering on the edge of something dangerous. One afternoon, Mark and I were lounging on the couch, flipping through channels when he casually brought it up. So how was your little chat with Ethan the other night? I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. What do you mean? He shrugged, not meeting my eyes. You know, the balcony, the drinks. You two seemed pretty cozy out there. I stared at him, stunned. He knew. I didn't know how or when, but I was sure of it. The way he said it, so calm, so unbothered, made my stomach churn. Was this some kind of test, or had I been walking into something much darker than I realized? I didn't answer right away. I didn't know what to say. Instead, I just stared at him, trying to gauge his reaction. Was he upset, curious, mad? But Mark just smiled, that same easy smile he always had, like he was waiting for me to figure it out. You know I'm not stupid, he said, his voice light but his eyes sharp. I saw the way you looked at him. I saw the way he looked at you. Chill ran through me. He saw it all. Mark, I started, unsure of how to handle this. Was he upset? Was he going to blow up? But instead, Mark held up a hand, silencing me. I'm not mad if that's what you're thinking, he said softly. I told you before, I trust you and I trust him. He let out a deep breath. But there's something about this, the way things are shifting, you know, it's exciting. I was floored. Exciting. Was this all just some twisted thrill for him? How had I gotten here? Was this all a game to him, to both of them? You know, he continued, there's something to be said for feeling wanted, feeling alive. I see the way Ethan looks at you and I see how you respond to it. It's kind of beautiful in a way. I was speechless. My mind was racing. Was he really encouraging this? Was he pushing me toward Ethan without me even realizing it? Or was I just overthinking things? "I'm not asking you to do anything you don't want to do," Mark said, reading the confusion on my face. "But I just want you to know I'm okay with whatever happens." I couldn't breathe. My chest was tight, my thoughts tangled in knots. I thought I understood Mark. I thought I knew where he stood. But now everything felt upside down. What was he really asking of me? What was I asking of myself? That night, after Mark fell asleep, I found myself awake, lying in the dark, my mind buzzing with thoughts. I couldn't help but think about Ethan, how easy it had been to fall into that space with him, how it felt like there was something more simmering beneath the surface. And then I thought about Mark, how he seemed to be orchestrating this entire thing like he was playing some sort of game with me. But what did it all mean? The next day, Ethan called me. It was an innocent enough phone call at first, just checking in to see how the week was going, talking about the upcoming weekend. But then, in his usual playful tone, he asked, "So when's Mark going to let me take you out on a real date, huh?" I laughed, but there was this awkward pause in the air, a tension I couldn't ignore. "You know," Ethan continued, "I've been thinking about what you said the other night, about the way things are, how we've been dancing around it for a while." My heart skipped a beat. "What are you talking about?" There was a long silence on the other end, and then he finally spoke again. "You know what I mean, this thing between us, the chemistry, the attraction." I felt a rush of heat flood my face. This was it, the moment I had been dreading. How was I supposed to answer? "I don't know if we should talk about this," I said quickly, trying to pull back. "It's complicated." Ethan's voice softened, almost coaxing. "It doesn't have to be complicated. It's just us, and I'm pretty sure you can feel it too." I felt the weight of his words. Was he right? Was this inevitable? And more importantly, was I ready to face the consequences of stepping into something I couldn't undo? The next few days felt like a slow, inevitable countdown to something I wasn't sure I could stop. I couldn't shake Ethan's words. I couldn't get his voice out of my head. It was almost as if he was challenging me to admit what had been building between us. And Mark. He was acting like nothing had changed. The game. He seemed to be playing something I couldn't quite grasp, but I felt it growing stronger with every moment. It was a Saturday night when everything reached its boiling point. Mark had planned a quiet evening at home, just the two of us, watching movies and relaxing. But I knew Ethan was going to be around. He had texted earlier asking if he could swing by for a quick drink after work. I had almost convinced myself not to worry about it. After all, it was just a casual drink, right? But when Ethan walked in, the air in the room shifted. Mark didn't even blink. He greeted him like any other guest, his usual friendly, easygoing self, but there was something behind his smile. I could feel it. I could feel them both, Mark and Ethan, playing their parts in this twisted little drama. The question was, who was I in this scenario? The one caught in the middle, unsure of where my loyalty belonged, or the one giving in to temptation? As the night went on, the tension thickened. Mark was relaxed, leaning back in his chair, cracking jokes. Ethan, too, was his usual charming self, but every glance between us, the subtle touches, the way our eyes lingered for just a moment too long, made my skin crawl in the best way possible. Finally, after the third drink, Ethan got up to leave. "I should probably head out," he said casually, but I could tell he wasn't done. There was unfinished business hanging in the air, and it wasn't just about the drinks. His eyes met mine as he stood at the door, and in that moment, I knew exactly what he was about to say. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" he asked, his voice low. Mark was in the other room, and before I could say anything, Ethan stepped closer. I swallowed hard. "What is it?" He didn't say anything at first. He just stood there, looking at me with an intensity that made my heart race. Then, in a voice that was barely above a whisper, he said, "I can't stop thinking about you. I need to know, do you feel the same way, or am I just wasting my time?" I froze, my mind spinning. I thought of Mark sitting just in the next room, completely unaware of what was unfolding right in front of him. The guilt hit me like a wave, but underneath it was a rush of excitement. Ethan wasn't asking for anything subtle anymore. He was laying it all on the line. Ethan, I don't know, I stammered, unable to form a coherent sentence. This is wrong. He shook his head. Is it really? Or is it just what we're supposed to believe, what everyone expects us to do? His hand reached out, brushing against mine, and it felt like the world tilted. I pulled my hand away, taking a step back. We can't do this, I whispered. Not like this. But even as I said it, a part of me wasn't so sure. There was a pull, an undeniable attraction that was growing stronger with every second. Was I really going to walk away from it? The door to the living room creaked open. Mark was standing there watching us. His eyes were unreadable, and for a split second, I thought I saw a flicker of something. Disappointment, amusement? Everything okay? Mark asked, his voice calm, like he was talking to an old friend, but I could feel the undercurrent of tension running beneath his words. I turned to face him, guilt flooding me. Yeah, just talking. Mark nodded, but his gaze flicked to Ethan for a moment. Well, we should probably call it a night. Early day tomorrow. He didn't even wait for an answer before turning back toward the kitchen. It was clear that this wasn't the end of the conversation, as Ethan gave me one last lingering look before walking out the door. I was left standing in the living room, caught between two worlds. The weight of presence in the house, combined with the undeniable pull I felt toward Ethan, was overwhelming. When the door closed behind him, I felt like I was trapped in some kind of silent war. Mark hadn't said anything outright, but I knew he knew. The silence in the house was deafening as Mark reappeared, sitting down next to me on the couch. His eyes were intense, studying me, and for the first time in our marriage, I felt like I was being examined, like he could see through every layer I'd put up. So, Mark said quietly, what do you want to do now? I couldn't answer him. The question hung in the air, unresolved. What was I supposed to do? How could I undo what had already started? The truth was, I couldn't. I realized then that nothing would ever be the same, and the scariest part was, I wasn't sure if I even wanted it to be.